you ever walked out of a meeting feeling that you communicated perfectly? That your message was clear, your data was strong, and your delivery was confident? Yet somehow no one really heard you, or you got the feedback later on that you never expected. It happens to many of us. In medical affairs, we dedicate our time, knowledge, our scientific expertise to support the goals of our organizations. We contribute to improving healthcare outcomes, building medical strategies, and shaping the scientific direction of our organizations. We speak the language of science fluently, and we take pride of being communicators, good communicators. But there is something missing, something that makes a barrier, sometimes between us and our audience, especially when our audience are business and commercial leaders. So it seems that being good communicators is not good enough. Don't you agree? Don't you agree that sometimes our numbers, our insights, and data often get lost in a world dominated by financial metrics, commercial targets, business KPIs? It's not because we say or what we say lacks value. It's because we often don't tailor our message to the audience sitting in front of us. We speak from science while others listen from strategy or finance or marketing. And when the languages don't align, the message disappears. Disappears in translation, yes. So the real challenge is not what we communicate, but how we translate our message to resonate with different stakeholders, to make our scientific insights well heard, valued, and acted upon, which is the ultimate objective. So today in this session, we will explore exactly that. We will try to uncover why traditional communication skills are no longer enough, and what does it truly take today to deliver impactful, audience-centered communication in medical affairs? This kind of communication that drives understanding, alignment, and influence across the business. As someone said, communication is not about talking, it's about connecting. So let me tell you a real story. One day, I attended a meeting with one of my regional medical colleagues, a brilliant medical expert who was presenting some very strong data to a business leader and his team. The presentation was perfect. Slides were detailed, statistics were accurate, data clearly demonstrated the clinical value of the new breakthrough. Then came the moment of truth. The business leader looked up and asked, "So, what does this data mean for our business?" My colleague, the regional medical lead, confidently and being well prepared, he answered immediately. "It means our drug will increase patient survival by 3 years." He said it exactly like this: increase survival by 3 years. And yet, to my surprise, the business leader didn't seem impressed. He nodded politely, but you could see the confusion in his eyes. The message didn't land. It seems to me that the leader didn't connect the term survival with the idea of saving lives. Didn't connect the term survival with the idea of saving lives. So I decided to step in and I reframed the narrative. I said it means that patients taking our medication will live 3 years 3 more years with their families, with their children, and their beloved ones, compared to those receiving the current treatment. The business leader paused and suddenly leaned forward and said, "Wait, what you are saying means that all patients should be on this medication, right? So when can we take this story to the regulators?" So did you see the difference? Instead of simply saying increased survival or reduced mortality, what I did was adding simple words. I translated the same data into a story. I brought feelings into it. One that can connect emotionally and strategically. The same numbers, but completely different impact. I learned from this incident that we should not assume that our target audience necessarily speaks or understands our language and what we use in medical affairs, even if we think that it is as simple as the word survival. Well, I have to make a confession. I didn't say what I said because I knew what data storytelling was, nor because I was an expert in communication. I did it just spontaneously, simply trying to explain to a business leader what survival truly means in the treatment of this life-threatening condition. And my friends, this is data storytelling. That, when I started to think about data alone, can inform people, but when you put it in the context of a story, you can really inspire them and you can really inspire their action. And in medical affairs, our ability to transform complex data into meaningful, relatable stories that can resonate with both scientific minds and business leaders, this is what truly amplifies our influence and helps us to bridge the gap between science and strategy. That's it. This is data storytelling. Let's take a moment and look around us to really scan the people we often speak to in our organizations, internal stakeholders. Who are our business leaders? Many of them come from finance backgrounds or from non-medical backgrounds. They are sharp, strategic, and results-oriented, but not necessarily fluent in the language of science that we speak. Their world revolves around performance indicators, market dynamics, financial forecasts, and to be honest, they often have very short attention spans. And if you are wondering what an attention span is, it's the amount of time a person can concentrate on a task, activity, or a piece of information before their mind starts to wander or to lose their focus. And it reflects how long someone can stay mentally engaged without being really distracted. And in our world today, most of our leaders have very short attention span. It is not that they don't care. It's the fact that they are constantly flooded with information, numbers, decisions, meetings that demand their focus every minute of the day. Now, let's add another layer to this challenge. What if I say that science itself is now different? Science has become far more complex than it used to be. We are no longer talking about small molecules that simply lower cholesterol or reduce blood pressure. Today, we are talking about medical innovations that redefine the future of healthcare. Gene therapies, cell-based treatments, mRNA platforms, precision medicine, artificial intelligence in diagnostics. All these innovations can truly change lives. And here is another problem when it comes to communication. The more advanced our science becomes, the more complex our language is, and the harder it is to translate into clear, compelling language that non-medical leaders can easily grasp and act upon. That is why, as professionals in medical affairs, we need to find a way we need to go beyond the data itself. We must learn how to bridge this gap, how to bridge the scientific world with business world. And when business leaders truly understand the human and the strategic value behind our innovations, they don't just listen, they will believe. And as said, people forget numbers, but remember stories. From all what we said, we can conclude that there are 10 reasons why in medical affairs and in healthcare in general we need to learn data storytelling skills. 1, because traditional communication alone is no longer enough, and being a good communicator doesn't necessarily guarantee that your message will land or will be understood or acted upon. 2, because our scientific messages often get lost when shared with business or commercial leaders who always think in terms of financial metrics, market performance, KPIs, rather than the complexity of the scientific outcomes alone. Also, because medical affairs speak from science, while other stakeholders, our stakeholders, listen from perspectives like strategy, finance, marketing. And when these languages don't align, as we said, the message will get lost in the translation. Also, because data alone can inform someone, but when we put data in the context of a narrative or a story, it can inspire action and influence decision. Because stories bridge the gap between science and strategy, and this will help us as medical affairs to translate complex medical concepts into messages that probably include the human element and that business leaders can relate to and act upon. 6, because our leaders often have short attention spans and are constantly flooded with a lot of information, meetings, and so on. Stories can capture attention and make information more memorable. They remember numbers, they forget numbers, but they remember stories. And because science today is more complex, involving a lot of innovative and complex scientific concepts, so storytelling make it simpler and understandable. The 8th reason is that because stories connect with people emotionally and strategically as well, and it helps non-scientific audience specifically to see the human impact behind the data and the numbers. Number 9, because when business leaders understand the human element and strategic value behind innovations, they will move from passive listening to genuine belief and engagement. Finally, because people forget numbers but remember stories. Storytelling makes messages last and creates lasting influence. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this series of episodes, we will learn together everything about data storytelling. Starting with our next episode, we will define data storytelling and will go into its components and will share examples of how to use it when we need, for example, to write an email to share an achievement or an update about a medical project, and how to use the sparse storytelling model and skills, for example, in a newsletter, and how generally to communicate our work and impact to our leaders and stakeholders. The main objective of this series or of these episodes is to develop the storytelling skills in medical affairs. Thank you, have a good rest of the day, and see you next time.